Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Erin Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
Welcome to another edition of New Voices. I'm your host, Erin Wiggum, and also the managing director of New You, which New You serves as a way for individual to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. But here on New Voices, New Voices serves as a megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational and pivotal experiences, and they're here to tell their story. We have a wonderful guest with us today. This lady has spent some time here in Tulsa with us, but she has a wonderful, rich story about her navigation to Tulsa and thereafter, right? And we just want to, learn more about her. She is extremely gifted, brilliant woman. She's about to hit you with this nice British accent that she's going to give us in a minute. But she's very textured. And what I love about her is that her heart speaks just as loud as her intellect. And you don't find that often. And so really, as we engaged through the New You program, I leaned in and said, hey, I think you'll be a good person to be on our podcast. And she said, sign me up. So you're going to get a wonderful, rich story today from none other than this HR manager and operations manager in her profession, but really just amazing thought leader and a woman who is led by her passion and leans into her purpose. And so I want you to receive none other than Tama Aipira. Welcome, Tama.
Thank you so much, Erin. I had to think, who is he talking about here? Who is this? What?
That's right. I'm telling all your business here, laying it out here for our folks so that we can hear what you're saying, who you are and what you have to say to us. So let's jump right in. I'm going back and forth between Tama and Tama. All right. 'Cause I know I call you Tama. So, I just spare me a little bit. All right. But, so let's get your story here. So I would love to hear, the Tama story from your perspective, and you can start from wherever you would like.
Okay. So I'm originally, I know you said the British accent. I think it's kind of like a mishmash now, like American and British, right? So,
okay.
But I'm originally from Malawi, which is southeast, more southeast Africa. Mm-hmm. And I came to the United States for uni, what we call uni, which is college, university kind of thing. And I stayed. I went to college at NSU Broken Arrow in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. You must be familiar with that, probably.
Yeah, yes.
And, just life here. I moved to different states. I was married at the time. And obviously I'm not now, but granted, moved around in different states. And for some reason, I ended up back in Tulsa. I was part of the Tulsa Remote Program. Mm-hmm. I got chosen for that. And so I moved back to Tulsa. And that's where I ended up getting into New You. Do you want me to speak more on that and how that happened?
You can. Okay. You can. It's a little early. How about you? How about we do this? How about we go back to your time in Malawi? So What was it like growing up in Malawi?
Oh my, it was great. I mean, that's all I knew. High school was great. I went to boarding school, which a lot of people are not familiar with, but boarding school is quite normal back home. So people, you go away for a few months and then you come back home.
Right.
And so I went to boarding school at 11 years old. And I think that also prepped me to the life here because I had to be very independent of my parents, right? So from 11 years old, I had to be quite self-sufficient. yes, I had my parents,
Right.
but at the same time, you are away for months and you have to figure things out, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
allows you to mature, to, build your time management and all that good stuff, right?
Yep.
So that was a good experience. I got great friendships from there. Most of
Mm-hmm.
my friends now, I can say, who I've kept in touch, and I'm almost 40, are people that I met in high school. And
Oh,
we're
okay.
scattered all over the globe, really. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, at what point did you end up leaving Malawi?
So I left at age 17. I graduated high school at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at a radio station for about a year from 16 to 17.
On
And
air or behind the scenes?
I was on air. I was a newsreader.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I can hear it. I can hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a newsreader. I don't know. I just stumbled on that. And I ended up getting a visa, came to the
Okay.
States at 17. And yeah, that's where I started, college and all that good stuff. And I'm here in the States.
Okay. So you end up going to NSU, you said?
Yes, NSU Broken Arrow.
NSU Broken Arrow. And, what was it? What were your thoughts and feelings in or migrating to the States? Like, what were you nervous? Were you afraid? Were you excited? What were you feeling at that time?
I've never been one who is too fearful
Okay.
of new experiences.
Okay.
And I think that's one of those things that I got from my mother. My mother was fearless and she'd just do things even when she was a little quote unquote scared, but she'd still do it and see what comes of
Right.
it. Coming to the States,
Yeah.
I was more excited than anything, right? Excited
Okay.
because what you used to see on TV, you see the Coming to America movie, or we used to see the
Yeah.
Huxtable
Yeah.
and stuff, right? So it's like,
Right.
it's nice to experience it. But when I got here, you realize that life as an immigrant is quite different. There are challenges that other immigrants will tell you have, especially when it comes to work and, having to work jobs that are, not that there's anything wrong with that, minimum wage or whatever it may be, but you're also going to school and most of us have to pay for our own tuition, which usually ends up being 3 times the cost of what an American would pay.
Absolutely.
So parents cannot afford that. And so you have to make do, you have to figure it out, right? So it's hustling. And,
Okay.
and you're not dependent on your parents. You cannot, because they also have to be able to take care of themselves back home, right? And not only that, when you start working, at some point, you may also have to turn back around and help family members back home as well financially, right?
Yeah.
So it was growing up pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of getting a theme here of you saying that where like you are stepping into a place of greater responsibility. You said it first with the boarding school, and now in the States, you're navigating a whole new country, and you have this weight of responsibility. Where are you at in the birthing order? Like, are you the oldest, youngest?
I'm the youngest of 3. So it's my brother, my
You're the
sister,
young.
and then
Okay,
myself.
you're the youngest.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so, did they come to the States as well?
So my brother lives in Indiana. He's got
Okay.
four sons, but my sister lives in Kenya.
Oh, okay. All right. And so how often do you get to go back to Malawi?
The last time I went, not as often as I would like, but the last time I went
Okay.
was COVID, right before COVID. Thankfully,
Okay.
I got back just in time before the lockdown because I might have been stuck. So, yeah.
You're right. Okay. All right. And so you get here, you're at NSU. Did you have a little bit of like fantasy around like this American dream? I know that a lot of people who migrate here or immigrate here, that's one of the things they say, like, you like, I can do it all now. I can do anything. And then they come here, they're like, wait a minute, hold on. What, is this dream a nightmare? Like, what's going on here? So like, did you have a little bit of that fantasy, or were you pretty realistic in your American, what you expected out of America?
Initially, you come with that fantasy, right? But then reality hits. Now, I'll say this. I'm not going to say that everything was negative in America. It's not. Because if you were to compare, prime example being like, I always tell my friends this, I say in America, you have the opportunity to hustle. Like if I'm short on something, I can do Uber, I can do
Right.
Lyft, I
Yeah.
can overtime. That's not an option back home.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
an option. People get credit cards here. Not that I'm, advocating for credit cards or
Mm-hmm.
having debt. That's not a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an option. You have an
Right.
option to get student loans. Back home, that is not an option.
Right.
College, parents have to pay out of pocket. If you own a house, you're literally paying out of pocket, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting some kind of, well, maybe they do loans now, I don't know, but it's not the same. So
Yeah. You either have it or you don't. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So here, really, if I don't have food, like I said, I can lift, lift
Mm-hmm.
hours and I got some food, right?
Right. Right.
So that's the advantage of America is the fact that there's so many opportunities. It is truly the land of opportunity, especially looking at it from an immigrant lens, right? Do we get
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
Americans get? Absolutely not. Now I'm an American, obviously, so that's a whole
Yeah.
different thing, right? But I can
Right.
also relate to that experience because I've lived it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So opportunities are ample. It's just what
Yeah.
you make of it and what you decide. Okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I want my life to look like, and that's that. So. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. So you graduate college. Were you the only one or first one to graduate college, or no?
No, in my
Okay.
most African families,
Yeah.
college is not an option.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's no, oh, I'm thinking of taking a break. No, no, no. After high school, it's expected that you go to college. So everybody in my family is educated.
Okay.
My dad was a college professor. My mom was educated as well, and she owned some businesses, and then she later went into politics. My brother graduated. My sister graduated as well. She works at the United Nations. All my cousins are educated. So yeah, I'm not the only one.
Okay. So it's not a choice. You're going to do this. Okay. And so when you matriculated into college and now into the workforce, did you feel a little bit of a letdown, or like what was your first experience out of college like in terms of employment? Like, did you think that your degree paved the way to that next opportunity, or were you kind of let down from that? How did that work out for you?
That is a mixed bag. So
Yeah.
my experience is not. I can't speak for everybody else per se, just because what I was going through at the time, I was married. I married young. If you asked me back then or before I came to the States about being married that young, if someone had told me that, I'd think they were crazy. But graduating college, I wasn't able to get into my career the way I wanted to because I was dealing with some other personal things at the time with my late son. So I had a son, and he just had some medical things, and it just wasn't feasible for me to do that. So I had to get whatever I could at the time to pay the bills, right, and make it happen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until closer to my age now, like in my 30s, is really when I got established and career, focal point, so to speak.
Yeah.
Of,
Yeah.
What I want to. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you talk about your son, and I'm so sorry to hear that. Losing a child is like that's on everybody's list of the thing that you don't want to live through, right? And so, can you talk a little bit about what that was like, having the child first of all, and then losing your son, and then how did you cope? How did you cope going through that?
Oh man, you're never prepared.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and I think the hardest thing was, let me just backtrack a little bit. I lost my mom 3 years after I moved here. So she passed away just after I turned 21.
Okay.
And my mom and I were super tight, like super tight. And so my dream had always been, when I have kids, my mom and I would talk about these things, and she was so excited to have grandkids. And, when you have kids, I want to come and take care of my grandbabies. So then you go through a pregnancy and you end up having a kid who has some medical problems, and you're having to deal with these things on your own.
Yeah.
You don't have someone to turn to talk
Right.
about these things. You don't have support, and I don't want to say anything negative. Like you don't have the support.
Yeah.
Maternal support is the biggest
Mm-hmm.
thing. So that was a struggle. And when he passed away, it was so sudden. It
Mm.
was, took him to the hospital within 2 hours, right?
Oh, wow.
He passed away, and then having to hold your child
Wow.
uh, while he's dead, you know,
Mm.
it's
Mm.
every day you
Yeah.
think of your kid, because you have
Wow.
these hopes and dreams, and you don't know who to talk to because people just say it's going to be okay. They're going to tell. That's the only thing that they
Yeah.
have to tell you is it's going to be okay. They have nothing else to tell you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't know who to go to. You don't know how to deal with it. Thankfully, I leaned into my faith, and I
Yeah.
think it could have gone either way, right? I could have just been like, God doesn't exist. Why would you
Mm.
let this happen, kind of thing? Or I could lean
Right.
into it and say, God, I need your strength. I really need you to pull me through this because I
Mm-hmm.
can't do it on my own, right?
Yeah.
There were times of crying in the shower. And then
Yeah.
after that, I was good at masking how I felt.
Mm. Mm.
After, you're done showering, get yourself presentable and you
Mm-hmm.
face it with a smile.
Right.
Continue on. Moments like, and how do I put this? You see people with their children, it reminds you of your child.
Right.
When you see someone is expecting, you're like, well, I've been through that and done all that, but I'm happy for them. I've
Yeah.
never been the type to feel like, oh man, I wish it was me. Of course, I would have liked that to be my experience. However, it doesn't take away from my joy for somebody else's happiness, right?
Right. Right.
But it can be hard. Birthdays were super hard.
Mm.
Of your phone, when it reminds you, it pops up pictures of your
Right.
child.
Ooh.
That's a reminder. So it's a trigger. But
Yeah. Yeah.
over time, the pain subsides. Not that it ever
Mm.
goes away, but it does subside.
Okay.
And therapy played a part in that as well. Let me not take that away. I had to go through therapy and talk to somebody who was far removed from the situation, and I could be vulnerable because sometimes it's a
Right.
bit hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Things like those. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. And you said, it was within 2 hours. So at one point, you thought we'll leave here together. And then 2 hours later, he's gone. Were you still married at that time, or was that after the marriage? You were. Okay. Okay. And how did that play in? I mean, you're a working professional, you're a mother, you're married, you're holding your child who's now, transitioning. And how did that play into all the roles in your life? Like, what a blow to take as you are evolving as a person, and you're losing your support system in your mother, and then you lose your what you've been working towards in your hands, right? Like, let's talk a little bit about, like, how did that play into the different hats that you were wearing at that time?
The first thing that comes to mind is sometimes I do wonder if the marital situation was also affected. That's a big thing for a couple to go through, right? Not to say that's something that they factored into it. There are other things as well, but just maybe we just didn't know how to deal with it because all I had been accustomed to, or both of us, I can say, because of the medical things that were going on, there were times when I'd sleep at the hospital. So that was my life, is giving medicine, doctor's appointments, surgery.
Yeah.
I think by the time that he passed away, he had probably had like 6 surgeries, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me right. So our focus was the kid.
The baby,
And
right.
you tend to forget about your situation and your relationship and all these other things. So when you lose a child, I remember the first morning, people came to my house when I went back home, and people came in our culture, people come to your house to mourn. It's basically to apologize, like condolences. So people came by, and the usual. Put on a face and just kind of worked my way through it. But that morning, I vividly remember thinking, there's nothing for me to do. I was so used to always having something to do, always being needed and being exhausted because I'm not getting enough sleep. And this had been going on for years, but now it's silence. Absolute dead silence. And so it forces you to have to be in the moment and really deal with your emotions. You can't escape it now. So that's how I felt. And then work is work. You take bereavement, but you're required to go back to work. Let's go on. Businesses don't stop because you're grieving. And bills don't stop because you're grieving.
They
right?
don't. Yeah, they don't. Right.
So you have to keep it moving, and that was it. Yeah.
Wow. So when you think about, your evolution as a person, when you think about Tama at, let's say, 12, 13 years old at the boarding school, would she look at Tama today and what would she feel or say about Tama today?
I think she'd be proud of her.
Okay. Talk more about that.
Yeah, I didn't realize when I was young, I was super shy, very introverted.
Okay.
Which is very different because I looked up to my mom. My mom was one of those people who she never met a stranger.
Yeah.
She talked to everybody. Everybody loved her. And so I wasn't confident in myself. And I remember one particular moment when I was in boarding school, there was a group of people and we're all talking. I wasn't talking, everybody else was talking. And then I said something, the whole room went dead silent. And I'm like, did I say something wrong? And one of the guys said, oh my God.
We never heard you speak.
I never heard you talk,
Yeah.
I was quiet and just very unsure of myself. Now, I always tell people I turned into my mother, literally turned into my mom.
That seems to happen.
Yeah. So I go to the store and I talk to people, strangers.
Yeah.
And I love, and during the New Youth thing, I learned that I'm an ambivert, right?
Yeah.
You know there was a word, right? So
Yeah.
And I love the social aspect, but I also love to be able to have my own solitude, like my own space to be challenged. But yeah, she'll be very proud.
I want to know a time in your life, and we could have already spoken about it so far, where you had to hold on to hope. Like it was, give us a particular night or experience where, you didn't know how you were going to make it through. You were at your wit's end and you didn't know what you were going to do. How did you hold on to hope?
A little moment I can think of is after I got divorced.
Okay.
That was, you have all these mixed feelings, right? Mixed emotions. You feel like, because divorce was never a thing back home. It's very rare that families divorce back home.
Right.
And I never thought I'd be married and end up with divorce. That was never my intention. It was like one and done. We're doing this till the end, till that kind of thing, right? But leaving that and then having to figure out my identity, who I truly am. I lost myself. I realized that I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I completely lost myself. I don't know what I want in life. And then also having to deal with some debt that came from, the marriage and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And just not knowing where to start, but you have to take a step, right?
Yeah.
And so focusing on career goals and it was on the up and up.
Okay. And what are some like things that you did that you employed in order to make it through that very uncertain period of time?
So I made sure that I connected. Thankfully, I built relationships with people who were in situations that I ideally would love to be in, right?
Okay. Yep.
And mentorship for work and stuff like that. And also removing those limiting beliefs, because there are times when I'm just like, man, I know I have a degree, but can I really get that job?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if I can even get to that level. And I don't know if I'm worthy. That's another thing. I don't know if I'm worthy of having that.
Yeah.
And having to work through those limiting beliefs, I was able to. So,
Okay.
I don't know how, but I was able to.
When you think about what's next for yourself, what are some things that you are excited about in your future? What is to come? And then my last question to tag on to that is, what is a call to action for our listeners?
So excited when I went through the New You program. I was very unsure about what I wanted to do. Honestly, I was very unsure. I had some possibilities that I wanted to explore when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
work, and then also just moving. And
Yeah.
I believe I had that conversation with you.
Yep.
I had a chat about that. And so I needed more clarity. And with the
Mm-hmm.
exercises that we did, it forced me to have to be introspective.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
also, it was a little uncomfortable at times, especially having to be vulnerable in front of people who you don't
People.
know these people. You don't know these people exactly,
Yep. Yeah.
and always sometimes worrying about, is there going to be judgment?
Mm-hmm.
But once I got comfortable and realized that we're all in this on the same page, everybody
Yeah.
here is for the same reason, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
only, you're not the only person. Everybody doesn't know what's going on in life and they want to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, and then those letters that we wrote to ourselves and the
Mm-hmm.
homework that you gave us, I was able to sit down and be very intentional and put it down on paper,
Mm-hmm.
because at times I would just put it in my mind and just say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. And of course, if I didn't write it down, I wasn't being intentional about it. So I wrote things
Right.
down, and I wanted to make sure that I was very clear in terms of like finances was one of the things, the goals that I had. Make sure that financially I'm really in a good space, and investing, which was one of the
Mm-hmm.
topics that we talked about. Career, I wanted to figure out, okay, because sometimes I have so many ideas and too many ideas where I get overwhelmed and I'm just like, all right, just leave it alone. But I had
Yeah.
to pinpoint, okay, which road are we going? Because you're going to have to figure out exact road and then the steps to get to that, right?
Yep.
So I managed to get into a mentorship at work.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to some people and I got to talk to somebody who is in a position that I want to be in. And so that's excellent. I'm super excited about that. And
Mm-hmm.
then ideally, house and having a family again, because I haven't given
Yeah.
up on marriage. I think marriage is a beautiful thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I still have a desire for it. And yeah, so those are my goals at this point.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Any call to action for our listeners?
Call to action, do it. Like if you're in a place where you need some guidance, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to do it to do New You, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to stumble on it because I was at a networking event and um, someone's friend, a friend of a friend, started talking to me, and then we were just talking about life and
Mm-hmm.
stumbling block, whatever roadblocks we have. And so she said, "Hey, have you heard of New You?" I'm like, "No, what is that?" So I googled it. And I said, "Well, it wouldn't hurt.
Uh-oh.
I'll go in the first session and see how I feel. If I
Yeah.
don't like it, then obviously I can turn around and you know, never do this again. But do it. There's there's plenty of gems there were so many light bulb moments that I had. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And once you do it and implement those things, then you see results, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
once you see those results, then it propels you to keep going because you're
Yeah.
seeing something tangible coming out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does that answer?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good. Just go do it, right?
Do it.
Okay. How can people reach you, follow you? Do you want people to reach you and follow you? How would they go about that?
Yeah. Now my page is private on Instagram, but they can.
That's fine.
So it's authentic
Mm-hmm.
underscore T dot E dot A. So authentic T. But
Mm-hmm.
authentic underscore T dot E dot A.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about LinkedIn? No.
LinkedIn, yes, it's do I go by Tama? I think I just go by Tama. Let me
Okay.
see. Tama. So Tama, and my last name is AI. Oh, it's Tamandani. I spelled okay. So it's Tamandani, and my last name is Aipira, which is Aipira.
Okay. And I think that, we're really excited to see, what's next for you and how you continue to evolve as a human. This has been a wonderful treat to sit and learn more about you and your family, your mom, and, even your broadcasting bit on your resume here. But, I think that overall, there's a power in telling your story, and to say that, I went from boarding school to a new country to motherhood, in a 10-year span, and then to have none of that in my life anymore. Mm-hmm. Right. But I'm still here. Right. Yeah. And I'm still moving forward, and I still have hope, and I'm still excited, and I still I haven't let that destroy me. Better yet, I haven't let it define me. Right. But I've allowed it to add dimension to me. Right. And I think that's the most that's what I've kind of deduced from all of this. The ingredients of this conversation is that none of these points, boarding school, migrating to America, losing your mother, losing a child, losing a marriage, none of that defines Tama, right? But it has added dimension to who you are. And your story is textured now. There is a richness to the story because of what you've both celebrated and endured. And so I just wanted to kind of put an end cap on that, so that, our listener can, understand the meat of the discussion that we just had. I'm recounting all of the points that we just discussed. And I just think that it's a beautiful story. Hopefully you're going to be working on a book at some point or something to be able to illustrate that story to a broader audience. And you're just such a sign of strength, even to walk through that and to do it without a heavy load of it's almost like you're telling us somebody else's story, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that you will be a success because of that fortitude and the level to which you are able to advance things while remaining who you are. And so kudos to you, Tama. This has been a wonderful discussion, and I'm so glad that you carved out a little bit of time for your people back in Tulsa. So thank you so much.
Of course. You need not ask, but you're welcome. And thanks for the opportunity to be able to share my story. And like you said, if anybody wants to connect or just, holler at me, please feel free and let's chit chat.
Sounds good. Wonderful. Well, you heard it yourself. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, follow. We're on IG. We are on LinkedIn, and we are on Facebook. New You Unlimited is the website. And also the New Voices, you'll find us on Apple Music and on Spotify. So please tune in, and until next time, continue to be blessed. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newuunlimited.com. That is NEWU Unlimited.com. Follow us on social media at New You Unlimited on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our programs for personal and professional development. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.